Hello again, I am Blunty, recording an intro after I've recorded the rest of the video because I've suddenly realized that it's such a rambly, nonsensical mess of a video, it may very well tank my entire channel for a few weeks because every time you put up a video that doesn't do particularly well as far as the algorithm or maintaining eyeballs go, it always happens that way. I'm going to put it up anyway because I think the concept is interesting. And I would hope that the people who stick with it long enough to get where it's going might have some interesting insights to share about how they personally view the content I'm going to be talking about as audience members and or as creators themselves. So, and I'm going to use a phrase now that I'm enraged at every time I hear it on a YouTube video. It's the sign of someone who doesn't know how to transition. It's the sign of a hack. Basically, it's a sign of someone who knows they've gone on for too long in their intro and have distracted and have gone on way too long, avoiding the actual point of the video that people have clicked on the video to actually see. And it is this phrase: without further ado, let's get into it. Every time I hear someone say that, I want to walk through the screen, slap them right in their face. You listen for it from here on in. Without further ado, let's get into it. Or without further ado, something. You listen for it. You'll start hearing it everywhere, and it will start to drive you absolutely sodding insane. I was wrong, by the way. There was a slight further ado. This time, though, I mean it. Without further ado, Mindy Kaling, possibly Mindy Kaling. No idea how to pronounce her name. Apparently she was on The Office. I never bothered to watch The Office. I was bored of hearing about The Office long before I ever got a chance to watch it. I hear the UK one's better anyway. I think she was in the American one. Best I can tell. Don't really care. I looked her up very briefly for the purposes of what we're about to talk about. Hi, I'm Blunty. I would appreciate it if you thought for a moment about hitting that subscribe, whacking the bell so you actually get maybe notified by YouTube when a new video goes up. Leave a comment, do the thumb. And if you are a long-time viewer around here and you want to go a little bit above and beyond, and you can and want to, there is a new Patreon, which I just launched, which you might be interested in. A little bit of behind-the-scenes stuff there from time to time. You might find curious, or you might just want to support the channel a little bit extra. Thank you, anyway, for your company. So, Mindy Kaling. It doesn't really matter. That's not her real name. Anyway, she's one of those people with a name that some agent somewhere along the line probably told her sounded too ethnic. So she has to shorten it to make it snappier. Because that's her real name. I'm not even going to try and pronounce it because I'm going to ruin it and just make myself look like a dick. But that's the name she was born with. Ms. Kaling. And I know this isn't the type of video I normally talk about, but being my own boss means I can talk about whatever the hell I'm interested in at any point in time. It doesn't always have to be about tech or gaming or photography or whatever else I care to do on this channel. So if you're not interested in talking about social media reactionary bullshit and people just getting their asses handed to them for being kind of a little bit arrogant, a little bit pretentious, a little bit wankery, then feel free to click away at this point because that's what we're going to talk about in this video. And this is actually an example of the subject of this video. A little bit of framing device, a little bit of pre-introduction, a little ramble at the beginning, a little bit of header information, as it were. Because Ms. Kaling, Mrs., no idea. Mindy, can I call you Mindy? She apparently made an Instagram post expressing how her disappointment, being irked, as it were, while looking at recipes online, because we're all stuck inside now. A lot of us are doing extra cooking that we normally might not do because we're terrified to order in, because who knows who's touched our food on the way to us, let alone who made it. What's their condition? To parent, whatever. We're making our own food. Apparently bread making's making a comeback. I've seen a lot of posts on social media about making bread. That's exciting. Love when people talk about making bread. It's the most boring form of baking you can do, really. I don't know how people mess up making bread. It's ridiculously easy. Every Australian, at least in my generation, learned how to make bread when we were like 5, because we got taken camping at some point, maybe on a school trip. And we'd make damper, like the simplest form of bread you can possibly make. And that was another example of what we're talking about here today, a little bit of preamble. And Mindy was whining about this in recipes. All the recipe blogs she was going to were going on and on and on and on, and 12 pages long, telling us the life story and the story behind the recipe and the story about the trip to the market where they found the overripe bananas that inspired them to create some sort of new banana cake pudding thing that the recipe is actually about. And she was really angry about that. She, I want a recipe. I just want to see the recipe. Well, there's nothing stopping you just scrolling down to the recipe for a start, Mindy. I don't know if anyone's told you this, but you don't have to read every word on every web page. Anyway, so a bunch of food bloggers reacted to this famous person's whining about their profession and their methodology behind their profession to explain to her why that happens. And it's a little bit cynical. Some of it has to do with the way Google search engine optimization works. Google likes more information, basically. It likes the concept of a preamble to establish expertise, basically. If you have more information there about how the process gets done and what led to it and everything, apparently Google's algorithms are smart enough to pick up on that and rank that higher in the search engine. Another reason is, of course, ads. Longer content, especially if you can spread it across multiple web pages, you can put more ads in between the paragraphs and stuff. And YouTubers around here are a bit notorious for that as well. A lot of YouTubers put needless B-roll in the beginning and the end, and they're trying to make a blog about what they're doing that day, or they went away from the weekend and they went jet skiing, and there'll be 45 seconds at the start of the video of them making coffee. Slow motion of rinsing out the coffee pot, and slow motion of the beans being poured in, and then the water being boiled and poured over, and then slow motion of the drip, and then pour. Who needs that? Who wants that? Who's asking for that? Who wants to watch someone else make coffee? But the main reason I put non-essential information in my videos, or leave it in instead of just editing it out. I could just record it and throw it away, just so it gets out of my head. But if I don't get it out of my head, it'll just stick in there and I can't focus on what I'm trying to talk about, which is part of why I do it mentally. And I leave it in the video because a lot of it is connection. It's storytelling. It's human connection, being able to relate to somebody and give extra context to the thought process that led me somewhere, or sort of there's a little side element that I wanted to sort of mention or criticize or point out because it might shine a little extra light on a corner of the main subject that I wouldn't have otherwise touched on. Things like that. I don't do it to stretch out the content just so I can get an extra mid-roll ad or something like that. I'm not that cynical about what I do. Some YouTubers are. More power to them. A lot of them do that and are much more successful here than I am. So maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe I should deliberately stretch out my videos so I run extra ads, and that way I won't have to stress so much about paying rent. But in the context of the recipes, cooks sharing their insights, the stories about what they're doing, it's a very old, this concept predates the internet by hundreds of thousands of years probably. Cooking has traditionally been a social thing. Cooks share, cooks talk, like anything that requires expertise and knowledge and sort of a level of esoteric information that isn't general knowledge. And there's a lot of that in cooking, particularly these days when we understand more about the science of it, the mechanics of it, the chemical side of things and the processes involved. There's a lot of deep knowledge that you can choose to learn that will enable you to do very interesting things when it comes to cooking. Or you can just be a cook. You can be pretentious chef guy doing gastromolecularology. What is it again? Gastromolecularology? Can't even say it anymore. What is it? I've lost it. There's a word there. Or you can just be a cook. I like being a cook. Just going, well, this, fry this, cook this, bake this, put that on top of that, and that for the sauce. Is it good? That's all right. I'll make that again. Should have written down how I did that. Didn't. I'll make it differently next time. We'll see how it goes. My bolognese has never been the same twice. I don't have a recipe for my spaghetti bolognese. I love making bolognese. It's slightly different every time, which is part of the fun. For me, anyway. But some people do get rather pretentious about it. And there's one way to poach an egg properly, and this is the way you must do it, and you set your timer for exactly X number of minutes and X number of seconds, and the water has to come to a mild boil, but not reach this temperature and not go above this temperature. And put the lid on halfway between, and then wrap it in a gold leaf and set it in the windowsill for exactly 38 seconds before you consume it with a gold-plated fork. Slight exaggeration, but only slight. Don't even get me started about the gluten-free people, for crying out loud. Oh my God, so many slappable faces in that crowd. I have, at this point, it was at this point, I ran out of magnets. Sorry, reference to another video that some of you might find funny. I have at this point wandered so far away from my original point, I don't remember what the end point I was originally aiming at. So I'm going to ask you this. How do you feel about that style of content? I've gotten complaints about it myself in a few tutorial stuff that I've done. Because, like a recipe, a tutorial about how to do this with your camera or how to set up your streaming thing to do this, I very often have a preamble of context saying, hey, if you want to do it this way, this is the way I've done it. And I did this, I tell the story about how to get there. And I occasionally get people, and it is a minority, by the way. It's a small amount of comments that do this, and then just go, oh, get to the point. Stop talking and get to the point. And I understand that. You just want to know how to do something. And that's fine. You could just, there's a little, see that? There's a bar at the bottom of the video. You could just skip until you get to the relevant information. If you don't want to hear the entirety of the context, that's fine. Nobody's stopping you from doing that. Just like Mindy, was it Mindy? What's her bloody name again? Mindy, yeah, it was Mindy. Just like Mindy could have scrolled down to the recipe, if that's all she wanted. But no, she chose to bitch and whine and complain and thrash about such a minor, teeny, tiny little inconvenience in her life. Because being a celebrity, being American TV celebrity, automatically puts her so out of touch with the common person, I believe. That even the smallest inconvenience is outrageous to her in such a way she has to post on social media and whine about it to her however many thousands of what do they call them on Instagram? Followers? Is that I don't know. And it is at this point, by the way, that I am actually inviting you to call me a hypocrite, because guess what I've just done for the last however many minutes this video has gone on for. Ta-da! Self-awareness of being hypocritical is one of two things. Either an escape clause, because you've suddenly talked yourself into a corner, or something that they've planned from the beginning to try and make a secondary point. Guess which one I did today? I dare you. Thank you to everyone out there who made it to this point in the video. Thank you especially to those of you who clicked subscribe, and especially to those of you who hit the bell or hit the thumb or left a comment. And extra super duper thank yous, top thank yous, mega thank yous, the best thank yous ever to the people scrolling up above my head there who've gone above and beyond and done the Patreon thing. Thank you. I am Blunty, and I will hopefully catch you next time, unless this video will scare you off for good because it's such a rambly bullshit catastrophic mess. Catastrophic mess.